Hi, welcome to Infusion Health, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. self-proclaimed power man, and I'm here with my co-host and significant other, Rach.
Hey, guys.
Now, today, Rach, it's actually, this is like our first show of the new year.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, so
totally.
we got through Christmas, and Christmas was a little hectic this year.
Yeah, tell me about it. You ever bring your family into it and you're knowing why not to deal with the human race that way?
Yeah, well. Let's just say we got through without killing each other.
Well, that's true. And our family lived through it also, so that's good.
Yeah, so next year I'm going on vacation. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm just
Hawaii, but somewhere high, anywhere away from the family, right?
So we want to wish everybody Happy New Year. Hope you had a good holiday season. Happy New Year. Now, one of my favorite shows I watch the reruns, is 2.5 Men. And John Cryer's character is a chiropractor. And, you hear the jokes on, chiropractors are doctors who really couldn't make it through medical school and all that. They became chiropractors. And we always got these jokes about chiropractors until you have a problem. And when your back hurts and you go to a chiropractor, the joke stops. So I'm happy to have Shane here. Shane's a chiropractor. And I'm sorry, your last name?
Wernke.
Wernke. Okay, Shane Wernke here. Now, Shane did some work on me. Actually, during the holiday season, we were at Barnes & Noble, and I was looking at a book, and I just, tilted my head down, looked at a book. All of a sudden, I went up, and I went, oh, God. And then 3 days later, and luckily, Shane, who works at Lifetime Fitness, he works for Life Clinic of Lifetime Fitness. Am I right?
Yep, that's correct.
And I went in there, I go, you got to help me. And he started doing adjustments on it and stuff like that. And let's just say I wasn't joking. So, Shane, welcome to the show.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
So let's look at, like I said, a lot of people make jokes about chiropractors and stuff like that, but it's a very serious occupation, because when you have back problems and your back hurts, you're the people we look for.
Yeah, you when people have low back pain, the jokes are great, but that's not very funny, right? Just like you said, you weren't really laughing about that. You came in rough shape and we had to get to work. And, that's a growing problem in our country and just in the world now. People are aging. People are, we sit a lot, and then we try to go to the gym and cram all of our movement into 45 minutes. And that's just not how things work naturally. So chiropractors are there to help.
What I seen when you were telling us, people sit a lot. Well, everything's becoming computers.
Right.
And even the people that work at like Walmart or those kind of places are now getting chairs to sit on while they're working on their computer. So everybody is sitting and working on these computers, which is completely bad body mechanics.
Oh, absolutely. We definitely did not evolve to sit. We are supposed to be up and moving.
So let's look at the back. Now we have that bone that goes. It kind of looks like a G clef or a treble clef. What's that called? The vertebrae?
So that's your spinal column, right? And
okay.
So that's actually a system of bones.
Okay, so you got your spinal column, and then we have the muscles in the back. We got the rear delt, and we got the trapezius muscles. So explain to us as far as the back goes with the spinal column and all that. How do we hurt that, and how do we keep from hurting that?
Oh man. So, the possibilities are endless with having, any kind of spinal or back injury, right? We've got soft tissues there, tons and tons and tons of soft tissues, connecting each vertebrae and muscles that, help us move, and just the discs in between the individual vertebrae, right? All those things can be injured to some degree, depending on what your activities of daily life are and what you're using your body for. How can you prevent yourself from injuring your back? Just moving. Movement is medicine, right? It's what we're meant to do. Staying moving, staying strong, using your bones, using your skeletal system, using your muscles, and staying strong is going to help you from, injuring those areas.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. There's other ways to do it with people using computers more, learning the proper body mechanics when you're doing that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Workstation mechanics are hugely important if you're going to do any degree of long-term sitting.
And then if you're injured with the accident or whatever, not overusing those muscles until you find out what's actually wrong with you.
Oh, well, it depends. Like I said, movement is medicine. So, a lot of times in some people, it's a huge misnomer that you injure something and you kind of just want to rest it off, right? a lot of times that can actually, hurt or delay your recovery, right? So you want to get up and move. Speaking about workstation ergonomics, I mean, the CDC even recommends that it's a 50-50 sit to stand ratio for, whether you're working at home or working in a cubicle or just working at a desk in an office. You really want to have that ability to stand, or at least every 50 minutes or so, get up and move around, go get a glass of water, go talk to a colleague, use the bathroom, grab something to eat. Just try and move as much as you can.
Sure.
Well, my thing is like when I sit down, like sometimes when I'm sitting on the couch, I always, I kind of recline, I kind of lay back. Even like when I'm at the movie theater, I see myself laying back, and I know that's not good for your back, but also too, I'm on my legs. I work 2 jobs. I'm on my legs a lot. And there are times when I got to sit down for like 5 minutes. And then, especially at my other job, I'm always picking up pencils, picking up crayons and stuff like that. I work cleaning up in elementary school, and you told me, well, bend your knees down and all that. Because my mind's like the easy thing, just bend over, grab it, but then it's like,
right.
That's a lot of wear and tear on my lower back.
Yeah, bending specifically. I mean, there's kind of like a bending pandemic in our society right now. We all have a tendency to really round forward at the thoracic and the lumbar spine instead of effectively hinging at the hips and using the proper ranges of motion and the proper muscles. So like with you specifically, Chris, I mean, I had you bend over right away as far as you could without pain. And right away, we noticed that thoracic spine and that lumbar is doing most of the forward flexion there so that you can pick pencils and things off the ground. And there really wasn't a whole lot of hip hinge, right? So we started working on that hip hinge. And once we get the muscles in the posterior chain of the legs to start cooperating, the hamstring stretching we started working on, that allows your pelvis to tip forward and you start using your hips the way they're supposed to be used. That takes a tremendous amount of pressure and work away from the low back, and that can definitely prevent you from injuring yourself.
And what about like does weight have a factor in that? Like some people who are like very, very obese, or somebody who are like very skinny and they're always bending over, something like that. Does that affect it? So it does. So to a degree, I mean, there are, tons of different shapes and sizes of people out there, and some people are built the way they're built, right? But some people, maybe they overconsume, or they don't move enough, and they don't, create they don't have a good balance of calories in versus calories out. And you can develop things like obesity and just metabolic syndromes. And none of those things are going to be good for your bones and your joints, because that in and of itself is going to change your mechanics. It's going to change your center of gravity, and it's going to change the way you move. So, yeah, absolutely. Your weight can definitely be a factor in your joint health. Also, too, I've heard like don't sleep on your stomach because that's too much pressure on your lower back. Is that true?
It really depends on who you ask. It just makes sense to me that sleeping on your stomach is probably not the best. We sleep in mattresses, right? And some people sleep in a firm mattress. Some people sleep in a soft mattress. Some people are heavier. Some people are lighter, right? And if you're a heavier person sleeping on a softer mattress, it might not be a good idea to sleep on your belly and have your low back sagging forward all night, right? Lots of variables to impact there.
I think it's really important, and I'd like to do an episode with you, Chris, in the future about when we finally get our mattress, because it's so important to find the right mattress for how exactly you sleep.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, on average, you spend about a third of your life in bed. Most people do, right? So that mattress and that sleep hygiene is really paramount for your spine health.
Well, also too, being on my legs, walking on hard floors all day, does that play a factor in hurting your back?
It can. It absolutely can. So, having good supportive shoes with the right amount of cushion if you're going to do a lot of standing. Some naturalists might disagree with me. They might think that barefoot is going to be better, but it really depends on your mechanics. And if you're standing and you're having, like heel pain and then low back pain, definitely something you want to look into getting supportive shoes. That being said, a lot of people, not necessarily that you get lazy when you're standing, but there's this resilience or this endurance that we build when we're sitting or standing for long periods of time. And a lot of people have a tendency to kind of relax the hips forward when they're standing for long periods of time. And that anterior pelvic tilt can put a lot of compression on that lumbar spine. So, learning some corrective exercises and strengthening that core and really working on keeping your pelvis in a balanced position can tremendously help with bouts of long sitting and standing too.
Well, I think it's so important that you said, even for a naturalist to understand that to get the right kind of shoes, because you're not going to go onto a construction site and have a soft toe shoe. You're just not.
Yeah. Don't recommend.
Yeah.
Even the naturalist is not going to go barefoot on a construction site. Like.
Not wise.
So me working, the nursing field, being a CNA and NST over at the hospital, we want to get the right kind of shoes for ourselves too. So no matter what thing you do for work every single day, you should always find the right shoes.
Absolutely. It's, knee pain too. That's another big one. I have a lot of people that come in and, they're like, hey, I went for a hike and now I'm having this inside knee pain and I've never really had it before. I went for a long walk or I just started jogging again. The first thing you can almost always look at, other than the glute strength and having proper hip extension, is the shoes, right? And people, especially, you see some of these people in the workout industry that Chris and I are both involved in. They wear these like platform shoes for lifting, and then they might try and get 15 minutes of cardio in after, and they take those flat platform shoes onto the treadmill. You're asking for knee pain. Yeah. Shoes are important for knee and low back health, definitely.
Well, I got shoes I wear when I'm lifting, but then when I'm doing like cardio, I got other shoes I wear. I got special, I got running shoes. I put my running shoes on, with my ankle brace and all that.
Smart man, Chris.
But what about like people who like never had back pain? All of a sudden, like what happened to me? They just bend over one day and they stand up and like, oh my God, I'm having this back pain. What exactly did they pop or?
First of all, let me say I commend you in seeking help. This is your first experience with low back pain, and so many people think that they have to live with it, or they think it's a part of life, and they don't address it, right? And that can be quite the mistake. You can develop aberrant motion patterns or compensations if you have any antalgic movement, which just means you stray away from certain movements because of pain. And that can radically change your normal biomechanics, right? And that can lead to compensations, and it can actually contribute to having more pain down the road. So I commend you for getting in. Remind me what the initial question was.
when people like what happened to me, they've never had back problems. All of a sudden they lift up one day or they get up one day and all of a sudden they hear something pop, or they come running into you like, I've never had back pain before. What's going on?
Well, they might come running in mentally, but sometimes they're hobbling in. Yeah.
In my field, what we recommend always is to get a good muscle relaxer.
Sure.
Get a good pain pill, and then do the 20-20-20, which is 20 heat, 20 ice, and 20 absolutely nothing.
That's pretty good general advice. Yeah. And so muscle relaxers can definitely, when you're in an acute situation, they can help things calm down because your body gets in a defensive mode. If you have a new injury, especially like a disc injury, your body really wants to protect that. And that's one of the reasons why those muscles will go into spasm, right? So that's good advice. And then just general anti-inflammatories, whether you prefer natural or over the counter, can be very beneficial as well. And then the 20-20-20 rule is great generalized advice. When it comes to thermal therapies, heat versus ice, it really can depend on the condition. We typically recommend that for a chronic condition, you're going to look at using things like heat and stretching and trying staying loose, whereas acute, you really want to stick to the ice.
Right.
And that being said, also just condition specific, such as like, I don't really recommend heat for like an acute disc injury.
Yeah.
Discs are highly vascularized, right? So you don't want too much of that increased blood flow from the heat. So I typically stick to ice personally when it comes to an acute back injury. I'm always recommending ice just because you don't want to increase that swelling.
Okay.
Well, what's going on with kids nowadays, and I've read this, that a lot of kids are, and we're talking like high school kids, young kids are getting back problems because they're carrying those backpacks around with all their books in it and all that.
Absolutely right. That is a huge thing for a young individual. There's a lot of things to unpack when it comes to just being a younger individual and spine health. And it's the last thing that kids care about, right? Because they're typically not experiencing neuromusculoskeletal pain. And if they are, it's pretty acute and pretty fast and they heal up pretty well. But one thing that I am pretty passionate about, or becoming very passionate about, is, education on proper utilization of backpacks, sitting postures in school, and then just, really trying to teach kids some kind of kinesiology, some kind of, well, this is typically the correct way to move, or this is how you activate your glutes during these activities, or, this is where you want your knee angle to be when you're running, especially with young women, because the increased Q angle put them at risk for knee injuries. Right. All of these things, I really think it would be largely beneficial for our education system to adopt some kind of kinesiology, neuromusculoskeletal posture kind of training when kids are young, and instill how important that is, because there are some very minute changes you can make to a child's movement or their posture that can save them loads of pain down the road.
Oh, I totally agree. Especially since kids are starting to use computers more and more, their posture is just so off.
I see this slump posture in that age demographic. I mean, it's like an epidemic in itself, right?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, that's what I do. I go to the movie theater, I slouch down, get comfortable, watch a movie or watching TV. And especially when I was in high school, sitting up straight and all that, it wasn't cool. So you had to like slouch down like that.
A lot of times health isn't the cool thing to do, right?
But I think, as you age, you start worrying about osteoporosis and that kind of stuff. And then when you look at our children becoming older, with them not learning these body mechanics in any way, right? Like how do we teach the younger generation so when they get older, they're at least remembering some of the body mechanics so that they're not in as much pain?
That's a wonderful question, right? Because it goes back to, it's just not in their innate interest.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I know the answer to that. I'm sure there's some education specialists that have put a lot of thought into it. So you guys are parents, right? How do you try to get your kids tuned into those types of things?
Chris works really hard at trying to get Vanessa to the gym. Vanessa was diagnosed with a hearing deficit.
Okay.
And because of her weight, it's also adding to some of that. So he started working her out at the gym. But I work for full-time. Chris works more than full-time.
Yeah, he does. He's got a few jobs.
Yeah, you think. But, Chris, he's the one that takes the lead and proper diet, and it doesn't always help, that he's at work all the time, but that's what he does. Yeah, no, that's what he does best. And so proper diet in the house, and then also having the kids know that he's here to support them in whatever workout journeys that they want.
Absolutely.
But, having those open conversations.
I think you just nailed 3 really major first places to start there that I think that can help children the most. First of all, the first thing you brought up was just getting up and moving, right? Getting to the gym. And I think that's going to be the hugest thing. Typically, the more you move, the more you do things, the more you can understand how you're supposed to and teach yourself. You also mentioned just, health, just keeping an open mind and being considerate of what a healthy lifestyle would be when you mentioned like food in the home, and then also just being a support system for them and letting them know that, hey, you might not be interested in this now, but if you ever are, I'm here for you, and I can definitely try to answer those questions for you, right?
Well, it's kind of hard to keep them on a proper diet when we live kitty corner from a McDonald's, and they all got jobs and they all got their own money in there.
Yes.
Who doesn't live kitty corner from McDonald's anymore? How many? There's tens of thousands of them in the country. It's wild.
Yeah, well, you also get people who they'll go to sleep one night, everything's fine, then they wake up and they're like, I can't get out of bed because my back's hurting because I'm...
I hear that a lot. Personally, Tiffany and I, we just switched into a very firm foam mattress. I don't know if I can say the name of it. I don't want to do like some kind of shameless plug. We just switched into a Tempur-Pedic, and I am a chiropractor because of my own experience with low back pain. And I find it to be very beneficial. Just with sleep hygiene is so huge, not even for low back health, but mental health as well. So having the right mattress for you, it can definitely radically change both your physical and your mental life. So that being said, there are mattress salesmen for a reason.
Yes.
There's a lot of variability there, right? I mean, they're going to take into consideration first and foremost, like what do you like? Because you got to like your mattress, you got to like going to bed at night, you got to fall asleep, you got to stay asleep. They're going to take into account, your body size, your body type. They're going to take into account what kind of pillow you like, right? And all of those things. So Yeah.
We just recently talked to a dealer for mattresses, and he had us in there for almost 2 hours just trying a whole bunch of different
There's so
beds.
much to know.
Yes, there is. We finally landed on a black beauty rest, but I mean, he had us on every single mattress. You know, some people are just like, I just want a mattress. It's going to be the cheapest one you can find, and that's like the worst one for your body type.
No, yeah, make the investment, right? Make the investment in your mental and your physical health. I think it's crazy. I mean, like we're saying, it almost takes like a degree to be a consumer in some of these things. You got to do so much of your own research before you go and, you know, even try and buy a mattress, let alone what they try and, you know, shoot at you in those 2 hours that you have to try and retain.
Well, I think the important thing you said is that is movement, because what gets me with the kids is that they're on their computers, they're on their cell phones and all that. And then it'll be like a 70-degree day, and we're in Minnesota, so you only get so many of these days. And I'm like, get outside, go do something, go walk around. I don't care. Just get out, enjoy this, you know?
This is such a hot topic right now. And I mean, the literature's pretty sound. And what we're finding out is just this. I mean, it's a buzzword, right? This instant gratification. These screens, man. Yeah. They definitely trigger your dopamine centers of your brain, right? Yeah. And there's your instant reward in the palm of your hands all the time. And I think, you know, I always look back at my childhood and I think about the fun I had outside. And I might get sad thinking about how some kids might not have that same experience, but I mean, their experience is different, right? So I struggle with, like, you know, who's to say, right? Who's to say? Maybe they just need to be happy and be on their phones. And but you're right. I mean, when it comes to physical health, we got to get up and move. So I don't know where we're going to go as a society from this. How are we going to unplug and get kids and get everybody
really
out moving?
It's important for parents to understand, first off, to have the conversation about stranger danger from a very young age, because I think that's why parents are so afraid to bring their kids outside and let them play out in the front yard like they used to, right? There is so many child abductions into sex slavery and everything else.
That is a very fair point, but I have to rebuke with, I mean, these kids aren't safe online either, right?
No, they're really not, and that's where it starts, right?
Well, that's the thing too. You're sitting there staring at your phone, and you got your neck tilt down, looking at your phone, and you're doing that for an hour. So that can't be good for your neck, you know.
No,
and again, it's going to start hurting your spine.
Tech neck is a very real thing, and so we're seeing definitely an increased occurrence of reverse cervical curve in a younger population, and this is scary.
Right.
Your body, your posture, I mean, it essentially, it's going down the kinesthetic chain from the top of that cervical vertebrae all the way down. Your body is trying to regulate and balance where your head is in space, right? So we look down at our phone and we change our cervical curve and we get this forward head posture, and our vestibular system's going nuts. Like, I know. You stand up out of a chair and your brain's going, wait, why is your head still forward? And how do we correct this? And down that chain, down that kinesthetic chain, everything's going to change to try and get your brain to go, okay, I'm in a good place again. So this is something that we're going to find. I think we're going to really find ourselves addressing more and more in a younger population and trying to correct that. So I think it's important. Be physically healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that I want to question you on is, what about Oculuses?
I don't have any experience with those.
Okay.
I think I missed the boat on that.
Well, I've never had one. We're going to have to put one on your head, because my kids play with this thing. So, I'm grabbing Colin after this.
I am intrigued. I mean, it looks like a lot of fun, right? I've just never experienced it. I think when I think about augmented reality and, like, okay, so let's say kids are spending most of their time on these screens, maybe video game players. I look at augmented reality as maybe our savior out of this, right? Let's say like Pokemon Go, for example. Right. Let's get people out and walking, right? Out and walking.
Pay attention to where you're going.
Pay attention, and don't drive in Pokemon Go, right? That's we all heard the story about the people driving off the cliff in California. Right. I don't know if it's true, but it's certainly scary. I think augmented reality and Oculus in this virtual world, I mean, if we can find some way to combine those two worlds, right? The video game world, the false reality and movement, I think we're going to take a massive step in the right direction.
I was literally looking at an old woman coming down using her walker the other day, going to visit a family member, and her back was just like the hunchback porter down.
Right.
Right. And we're going to see this in our kids if we don't start doing something about body, just talking to them about body dynamics.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a scary thought. So a lot of when you see people with kind of that hunchback posture, a lot of that's going to be, it can be congenital. It can be like, a degenerative, right? We can lose height of our anterior vertebral bodies and things like that, but it can come from posture as well. I mean, like I said, we sit with our head forward. Our body's going to try and figure out some way to make that our new normal, right? Yeah. And then just typically not being out moving and having that forward posture, it's going to weaken those back muscles. It's going to weaken the muscles along the spine, and it's kind of all downhill from there.
Right.
Well, let's talk about like when I went to visit you, or when I came to see you, you grabbed my head and you took my head and you turned it, and I was like, yeah. And then you pressed on my back, and you could feel the tightness in my back, and you said, "Is this where it hurts?" And you pressed on that, and you opened that up, and can you talk about some of the treatment? And I don't want to scare anybody out here, but it's worth it.
Yeah. So I will say Chris was an interesting first adjustee. I do remember, and I probably won't forget. He looked at me and goes, "Just please don't hurt me." And I was like, "Oh, Chris, I would never." But he's getting used to it. It is not a natural thing for you to lay on a table and allow someone to grab your head and manipulate it in a fast manner, right? That defies, I mean, your brain is screaming for help at that point. Like, why are you allowing this to happen to me? That's a natural response, right?
Right.
But I want to assure everybody listening, all the listeners out there, you are in a controlled setting. I went to school for 7.5 years to become a chiropractor, right? I adjusted a lot of spines before you likely got on my table. It is safe and effective. There are very few injuries, and shameless plug here, chiropractors out of every healthcare individual, I'm certain we're still the lowest malpractice insurance rate, just because we don't have very many negative occurrences.
Right.
But when you have back pain and he does this to you, you trust me. After we do a half-hour session,
half-hour sessions. Yeah.
After a half hour, it's going to be painful, but it's worth it, because you will walk out of there feeling much better than you were. And I'm talking, I didn't have Viagra. He didn't prescribe drugs to me, but he did all this. And I was swearing. I was like, "Ow," But I came out of there. I'm like, okay, I'm walking better now. I'm feeling better now.
Should have put that on the podcast. Anyways, I think it's also really, really important, because people leave the chiropractic and they're like, "Oh, McDonald's is across the street." No, go grab your thermos, fill that up with water. You're going to be drinking that water all day.
Oh, that's a huge thing. Yeah, you want to talk about being sore after. Let's think about your very first deep tissue massage. I mean, you're not going to want to go out and grab a hot cup of coffee after that, right? You're going to want to consume some water. We're digging in there. We're breaking some things up. We're getting new blood flow going to places. That is going to dehydrate you.
Yeah.
And you are not doing yourself any favors if you walk out of any kind of practice like chiropractic, Thai massage, stretch lab, anything like that. Massage. I mean, you should always be consuming water anyway, but it's definitely an interesting field, right? Just because people just don't know what to think about it their first time.
Yeah.
So I liken it to, it's always likened to like massage therapy or physical therapy. Just go into it with the same mindset there, right? And there's a thing called therapeutic discomfort, let's say. So some of the things we do, they might hurt in the real time. And certainly I took a Hippocratic oath, right? There's certainly no way I'm trying to inflict pain on anybody, right? But it's I call it the pain tax, right? You got to pay it forward a little bit. This is the pain you choose so that you don't have the pain that, derails you or it keeps you in the chair down the road, right?
And I think it's also important that a lot of people say, "I hate the chiropractor. I went once. It was horrible." Your body was just manipulated in a different way that it's supposed to be going towards.
Right.
So yes, of course you're going to be sore.
So I've got a few things to speak on. There's a lot to unpack with that question. First of all, if you've ever had anything braced before, or if you've ever been casted, you ever had an injury and you get that cast or that brace off and things are stiff and they're sore. I mean, you had that brace or that cast on for 4 to 6 weeks, right? and you know how stiff and sore you are. And that's how important movement is, by
Right.
the way. But then liken it to, like, you know, we have so many joints along our spine, right? So many joints along our spine, and sometimes they're not moving correctly. And that's effectively like, you know, putting them in a brace or a cast for God knows how long. Maybe this person's had this pain and that joint, that spinal segment or segments hasn't moved correctly for years.
Right.
And it's my job to move it that way, right? So there's going to be a degree of soreness in some people with that. Yeah, absolutely. Also, that being said, gosh, everybody's bodies are so different, so incredibly different, and every chiropractor so incredibly different. That is one of the biggest beauties of our profession. It's one of our biggest downfalls as well, because you might go to a chiropractor and have no idea what to expect, and what you did expect is not what you got, and that's really unfortunate. But I guarantee you there is a chiropractor out there for everybody who's doing what you're looking for.
Right.
Do your research. Google's a beautiful thing, right? It really opens up your whole world, and you can kind of know what to expect going into things. And I really urge people who may be seeking neuromusculoskeletal care that have never been to a chiropractor and are thinking about it, do your research, call and ask all the questions you can. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think chiropractors, out of anybody in the health profession, we typically love to educate. I mean, we love to educate. We love to tell people, and we love to look at people and say, hey, this is where you're at, and this is where I want you to be, and this is how we're going to get there. And I think, you know, a lot of medicine and healthcare kind of lacks that. So do not be afraid to ask those questions.
I love that you followed up with looking at Google with asking questions and making the phone call and all that, because people do not always use Google responsibly.
Right.
They go on their little tangent and find all the wrong information.
Yep.
And then never ask the questions.
Well, also too, I want to talk to you about exercising those muscles, exercising those rear delts, and exercising that those trapezius muscles and all that. Does that help with preventing back problems and exercising your lower back?
A balanced musculoskeletal system is going to be your friend and your aid throughout the longevity of your livelihood, for sure. When it comes to back muscles, most people are not going to be trying to exercise the traps very much. It is kind of another huge hot topic in my profession, in the health world. This hyperdominance of traps, and it really comes from sitting and forward posture and things like that. Lat isolation is paramount, is huge for your neck, your upper back, and your shoulder health. Making sure that you're strengthening those retraction muscles is going to be huge for your neck health, your upper back health. Rear delt and your external rotators, those typically are shut off in people, or maybe not shut off. That's not a great scientific term, but I'm trying to speak in layman's terms here. Those are typically weak areas with people that forward shoulder posture, that forward head posture. And just speaking about conditions and musculoskeletal health, there's really two huge conditions that I treat every day on a daily basis, and most people are going to have it to some degree, and that's upper cross syndrome and lower cross syndrome. And I'll try and keep this very elementary, but they both kind of come from sitting. And so when we sit, if you think about it, our hip flexors are in a shortened position. Our glutes are in a stretched position. That's going to cause inhibition of those glute muscles, and it can lead to weakness.
Well, when you got glutes, you also got your stabilizer muscles too.
Right, and your glutes are going to be a large portion of your stability. They are the primary mover in your posterior chain. They are responsible for helping keep you erect, because they do cause hip extension. Core weakness comes from lower cross syndrome. Right, the hip flexors are tight, the core is weak, the glutes are weak, and the low back is tight. That's your typical presentation for the lower cross syndrome. That's why it's called a cross syndrome, because the weaknesses and the tightnesses kind of cross over. Right. That being said, upper cross is basically the mirror of that up on the top, where your chest is really tight, your biceps are tight, you're in that forward flexion position up top. That's going to inhibit that strength of those back muscles that you're talking about, Chris, the retractors and all of those things. And then your neck, we talk about tech neck. The deep cervical neck flexors become shut off or inhibited. The suboccipitals get really tight. This is where you get your headaches and that scalene tightness, which, if you guys don't know, these muscles in the front of your neck that you see that are kind of fun to I don't know, flex. Those are actually muscles of respiration. They assist in respiration. Right? They're supposed to help lift the upper rib cage and the clavicles. They're not actually meant for your neck flexing forward. So sometimes those get dominant too, and those can lead to headaches and other issues. But I'm kind of on a tangent now.
well, one of the things I want to say, because Rach is in the medical field, and I know she has to move patients and all that. And one of the things I have to say is that if there's something too heavy, don't try to be macho. Ask for help. I remember one time I had a barrel full of books, and I was rolling it out to the dumpster, and the thing fell over, and I went to grab it, and I hurt my back. And my boss says, next time, just let it fall. He said, you tried to grab that. He goes, yeah, you could hurt your back. He said, just let it fall. So ask for help, and don't try to lift something too heavy, because that could also cause back injury. Oh,
absolutely. And here's the thing, all you macho bros out there, check the ego at the door when you walk into that gym, right? Especially, I was just listening to another podcast earlier, and it was this guy's concept was he was really saying, if you interview 100 people and you ask them, would you rather be strong or look strong? 90% of the time they're going to say they want to look strong, right? So here's for the macho gym bros that are overlifting and ego lifting out there and hurting themselves. If your goal is hypertrophy, the amount of weight on that bar does not matter, and that is what the newest literature is showing. So drop the weight, do your joints a favor, drop the weight, up the reps, and eat well, and you'll look strong. You'll get those desired results without hurting yourself.
One thing about the medical field you were talking about is using the right equipment. And if a patient's going down, you can lower them down with your knees, not your back.
Absolutely.
With the gait belt. The gait belt's there to help them when they're falling, lower them in the correct way, because that's where the injury comes from. We have equipment on our field to be able to use so that we're not overextending our body. You got a 300-pound patient. You're not going to move them by yourself. You tilt the bed, you get another person, you hoist them up. It's just, body mechanics, so you do not hurt your back.
Absolutely. This is actually another passionate topic for me. My mother actually, she was a nurse's aide for a number of years, and she unfortunately was hurt on the job, and now she has chronic low back pain, and she really struggles to do even basic daily things, whether it's cleaning the house, whether it's, trying to walk around the block and stay healthy. She's really confined to a lot of rest, and it's unfortunate. And I know it's really affected a lot of her life. It profoundly impacted her life in a negative way. And I know so many of our nurses, in particular, our nursing aides and the people that have to move these bodies, unfortunately experience this. And we just go back to, how important ergonomics is. Yes. And I think these large companies, these hospital systems, these finance companies, all these people sitting at desks, I think they should really consider upping their ergonomic training game and make all of these people's lives easier and happier and decrease this chronic pain we're facing.
Well, it would help if they worked one day on the field.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think you'll find it easier to find funding for someone to come and teach than getting them to do that.
Well, walk straight through and skate through the door. They'll be popping out everywhere. I love my field, but that is such a hard truth, because until you experience it, you don't know what the other person's going through. And that's anything through life.
Patients aren't getting smaller either, are they?
No, no, they're not.
So make sure you're out there, you're exercising and protecting that back. And make sure when you're sitting, watching TV, and I do this a lot too, watch TV, make sure you're getting up every, hour or so, standing up, walking around, and not just sitting there all day.
Drinking water.
Yeah, make sure
lots of water.
Lots of water. Well, Shane, this has been an interesting conversation. I'll probably be seeing you next week for another adjustment. And if people want to get a hold of you, you got a website or email or something they can have. And if they just got questions or whatever.
Absolutely. So that's a really great question. You can find me on Instagram. It's Shane Wernke DC is my handle, at Shane Wernke DC. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them there. I'm on LinkedIn, Shane Wernke on LinkedIn. I am at the Chanhassen location of Life Clinic. That's where I currently practice. I There's on the Life Clinic webpage, I believe the email is listed there. If you want to shoot me an email, feel free. I'd love to answer any and all questions and help educate anybody out there any way I can.
And he will give me all that so I can put it in the show notes.
There we go.
And if you have any back problems or any back pain, you definitely want to see Shane and get an adjustment or just get a consultation to find out what's going on. But if you're having back pain, get in and see somebody. Go see a chiropractor or a doctor, but get in and see somebody.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Shane, it was great having you on the show. I'm gonna let Rach close us out.
You guys, we have finally come to a new episode of the new year. I want you guys to have a great one. If you're in pain, find the right thing for you. Go find a chiropractor. Go find a doctor. Find the right herbalist for you. Whatever you need to do. We're gonna keep on going on with these shows for the rest of the year. Have a great one.
Take it easy.